The historic drought continues to exact a heavy toll on the state's landscape, most dramatically drying up California's precious water resources in lakes and reservoirs.
Also hurting the millions of trees that are vital to our fragile ecosystem. KCOY-12's Dave Alley got to the root of the problem, so to speak, and is live in Santa Maria with the report. Dave.
Scott and Paula, the importance of trees just like this cannot be overstated, especially when you consider what they mean to the environment. Unfortunately, we're losing trees in staggering numbers all across the state as well as here locally. And that's a big problem with all sorts of negative consequences. It's another day on the job for Cobb's Tree Service. Workers, including owner Calvin Cobb, are busy as usual.
Last 2 years, we have not missed a day's worth of work. It's been that steady.
Thanks to the drought, which is taking a devastating toll on thirsty trees.
Without proper hydration, trees become stressed just like human beings. So these trees are just very stressed,
leaving them weakened and vulnerable to attack by life-threatening dangers.
The drought continues to be the primary cause of the problem, but the insects and other diseases are what's considered secondary. The cumulative effect is when we see the high mortality rates.
Which is happening right now. A recent survey estimates 12 million trees have died in Southern California in just the past year. Here on the Central Coast, dead and dying trees are everywhere.
Started with pine trees, moved over in the eucalyptus trees, and now we see a lot more oak trees dying.
Monterey pines have been hit the hardest, thousands becoming easy prey to invasive bark beetles.
They're boring in and eating the cambium layer on the inside of the bark.
These rice-sized insects multiply by the millions, quickly devouring trees, killing them in no time, turning needles a deathly brownish orange before only a skeletal base remains.
From non-symptomatic to symptomatic really occurs in just a matter of days, and a tree can go from bright green and apparently healthy to orange and dead.
The tiny ravenous pests then move on, rapidly turning a grove into a graveyard.
They start at one tree and the population builds and builds, and then they fly off to the next tree nearby, and so before you know it, that's how these developing clumps and patches of dead trees progress.
Nowhere will you find greater patches of dead trees than in Cambria, the popular coastal hamlet famous for its pines by the sea.
You can see a change in the forest on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Trees that looked fine 2 weeks ago are showing very serious signs of dying.
It's creating a perilous situation for most of the town's residents that live tucked away on steep, forested hillsides.
The potential for a catastrophic fire is extremely high right now, and the potential for a large number of people to die in a catastrophic fire is high.
Dying trees are of major concern to all local firefighters, especially when they eventually topple over and fall into dry brush.
And you just get this huge accumulation of this highly flammable, just bone-dry wood. So this is about as bad as a fire hazard can be.
Falling trees also pose a major threat to personal and property safety, while long-term negative effects include loss of visual aesthetics as well as landscape change.
If the native species decline to a certain point, then areas that were formerly occupied by trees may become occupied by brush.
As some trees struggle and lose the battle versus the drought, other species of trees are doing much better and remain as green as ever.
Trees on north-facing slopes are doing fine. Trees along creek beds, willows, sycamores, where there's a lot of natural water, trees are doing just fine.
For the countless trees that aren't doing fine, death is imminent. But fortunately, many times where there's death, there's also life.
As a big tree dies and the seeds are left on the ground, the pine cones, the acorns, and lots of compost, or leftover needles, new trees are going to start with heavy rains.
Well, hopefully those heavy rains will come soon this year to help these guys out. Now, another negative consequence that we do also have to mention from all these dying trees, the financial impact. It costs well over $1,000 to cut down a single tree, making removal a very expensive proposition for homeowners, as well as cities, counties, and other municipalities. Reporting live in Santa Maria, Dave Alley, KCOY-12, Central Coast News.
So sad to see, Dave. It really, really is. And it's nice to know that there could be a regeneration and once we do get out of this drought.
Yeah, it's staggering to see all those dry trees. Great report tonight, Dave. Thank you for that. Let's go to the first